Hello.
Hey, how are you feeling?
I feel okay. Been overwhelmed a bit and but I'm coming back from last week and feeling really run down and sick and my body like basically shutting down and forcing me into a rest when
Mhm.
I didn't plan for it. This week it's been a bit better. I'm still struggling a bit on like more of taking care of my body and things like that to get me in a better state to,
What helps you to do that?
well, I can get uh, mm, when I'm in it overwhelmed, I tend to put important things like my nutrition and being active and like the things that I know make me feel better. I don't purposely not do them, but they tend to not happen well. And so what helps is like getting myself back into a routine where I'm carving out specific intentional time for that.
Yeah, I can relate to that 100%.
Mhm. How are you feeling?
Right now, at this moment, I'm feeling good because I had a good conversation with someone. Um, and I had a coaching call today with someone that it was very good. One of those calls that client really smiles at the end and have a big realization, and they're like, "Wow, this was such a good session." So
Mhm.
as a coach, I'm not supposed to be attached to how the session goes or them being excited or have a breakthrough because that can get addictive. But that naturally it happens when they have that. I
Yeah.
try to be mindful of it too, because also in coaching, a lot of people it's so good that you keep chasing
Mhm.
that thing, which is not coaching.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, I think I'm feeling at the moment very good because I talked to an old coaching client and um, we caught up and I asked him about um, business and hearing him doing very well since we started talking. It was very nice. Also, remembering my own progress.
Mhm.
And also, he mentioned he might want to work with me again. Um, Aside from that, I feel the same. Like it's the overwhelm of too much. And I was last night, I couldn't sleep. Like I woke up and then I was just keep thinking about the business. And I was thinking it hasn't happened recently. It used to happen much more last year.
Mhm.
I I thought I figured it out, but it's natural, you know. Sometimes it's like some weeks is like all excitement and
Mhm.
it's like yes, and things are happening, and then next week it's like something still there is excitement for me, but then also there are some fears
Mhm.
and some overwhelm because there's a lot um and very similar to you, I tend to not take care of important things that helps me to stay grounded and creative. Those things are one is I mean sleep, but also exercise. I haven't exercised in last 3, 4 days. And I go for walks at night and meditate. I haven't gone to that either. Like last night I was just coding till like 9, 10, and I couldn't let go of it. And then I didn't do anything else. And then I came back home and so yeah, that was what I was reflecting as I couldn't sleep last night, that hey, don't make the same mistake with those uh, it doesn't worth it. Like naturally it impacts everything else in a negative way in longer term. like doing a little bit more in a day doesn't help with the long-term
Mhm.
goal.
No, and if you're not taking that time for that, for taking care of yourself, it's gonna show up somewhere, and it's gonna be when you're in the middle of something and your body's gonna force you to take care of it, or worse. So yeah, like today it's like I got up, I made protein pancake. It's like, okay, because I haven't been, like eating, trying to keep like a good eating schedule and stuff. Then I had made salmon last night, so I ate that. I have yoga scheduled for tonight. I had shared with you, I started really looking at all the tasks that I have that I do on a regular basis. I worked with my coach to try and figure out like what areas, like what are some ways to to move things around to like as a structured thing to see how that can take off some of that pressure. And then I used ChatGPT. I opened it up and I was like, can I just tell you all the things I'm working on in a week or in a month? And then like, can you help me operationalize that a bit? And so we walked through everything and then turned that into like, okay, if you really want this deep focus time, which is what I was lacking, is like, here's how to kind of move things around and do that. And I was like, okay, these are steps. These are all small steps that get me to an overall better state because there's a lot happening. And so if those things are in place, I know I have the more capacity for all these shifts and changes and like the hard work that we're doing as we build this sort of new product.
Yeah, yes, I think that's one of the good use cases of ChatGPT and or AI.
Yeah.
I think it's otherwise it would be so hard. Like a lot of brainstorming and organizing my thoughts also happens with AI. And I think that I need an executive assistant or someone like that to kind of organize things and take care of them.
Mhm. Yes, that would be lovely. That would be lovely. So, wow, yeah, we have a lot. I'm like trying to think about the last time we did the podcast. We were we were at 14, so I think we skipped last week.
Yeah,
Um, but I don't remember if it was before or after the event. Like, have we even had a chance to?
probably was before.
Probably before, yeah. Yeah. It was so interesting. When I was talking with my coach, she was like, how are you feeling? And of course, I'm like, oh, I had this migraine last week that really took me out. I was talking about last week's event, and she was like, wait, didn't you have another event since the last time we spoke? I was like, oh my gosh, it's just 2 weeks, but it seems like just 2 weeks happened months ago. And I realized like, oh wait, we had spoken before that and after that. So actually it's like what happened in the last 2 weeks is a lot. Good and bad. And the main thing is like this, I think this energy that came from that first event, um, the connecting with emotion event has been like this, I don't know, this kind of like high that I've been like writing a bit of like that energy has given me energy that came out of that night. But some of it because so much has happened since then that has like caused me a lot of stress and like personally with my health and stuff that I actually had forgotten about it a bit. Which, I mean, yes, you can't ride that high forever. It's a one-time event. We have to replicate it, all these other things. Um, but yeah, so I don't know how I feel about that. I was struggling with that. It kind of hit me where I was like, oh, that was just 2 weeks ago, or not even 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah, I think it's there's something about riding those highs that also sometimes is as harmful as riding the lows,
Yeah.
I think. Like in our event, second event was about AI transition, and I remember when we like emotions around AI transition, and when we were talking, I was sharing that sometimes like a lot of time we want to not be anxious about it and be excited, but both of them, one of them is not necessarily better because then I
Right.
see like this extreme high excitement about that riding it. And one for me personally, usually it leads to a burnout.
Yeah.
Like I get so much into doing, I don't have enough pause to really connect and balance. And usually there's a big low after those.
Mhm.
So I think it's without getting too philosophical, we have this tendency to have a positive point of view towards the highs, but I think like I've learned being a founder that it's kind of fun to write them, but gotta do it mindfully because usually there is a burnout after.
I think it for me, like and actually I was talking with somebody after the event too about, and she had kind of likened it to like a performance. If you're a performer, you're here for your performance, and sometimes there can be that crash after. And so it's really important to practice, like to really be grounded and practice that self-care when you're coming off of that. And so that big event, like doing all this stuff leading up to it, I've learned what I have to do to get in that mindset and how to transition out of it because it is a big thing. But I think what I'm like more sad about is that I don't think there was enough time to really celebrate that before we had to go straight into the next one. And that's actually that I don't know, that disconnect for me was where I was like, oh, I went from this was such a cool thing that we did to like on to the next thing. And so it almost like the excitement from that got cut off. And then of course like my health was I wasn't doing well last week. So then it was like a snowball effect of just this other side of it. So it felt like I went from positive to not even negative, but just this like high excitement to like this unhealthy state very quickly without having that in between time.
Yeah, yeah, I think we didn't have the time to pause and celebrate. And then also, I think it was a little bit of a burnout. Like we went through that, which is very common. Like I think it's kind of normal to do it.
Yeah.
It's important to not blame ourselves for it. I think it's so, so, so common, and we're gonna do it again and again. But we can try to be more mindful.
Yeah. Yeah. And what we were now we have that was sort of okay, we planned a community event that went really well and that people responded to really well and that that people really gained that value from it. And we felt it too, of this just deep emotional connection that you can't fake that that showed up in this space. And then we were still able to use like everything we learned from creating that event to turn that into our next event. And now we have these two beautiful like structures for how these events can function without needing to burn ourselves out in the planning of it. And that just means that so much more of our energy can go into the being and being a part of it. So it's so important that we did all of that work. And so now that helps us take care of ourselves moving forward so that at least when it comes to these, and that's what we're learning as we go. The more everything that we're building these foundations for makes it easier for the next time. And so, yeah, I feel really good about that.
Yeah. I'm smiling because I remember before the second event we were late, and also that was such a good moment. Like we had a breakdown. I was trying to have everyone to be connected and sit and be present. And you're like, no, people are coming in. And I'm like, hey, can you just come and sit with us? And you're like, no, I can't. And I was just reflecting that first of all, that's such a good uh, of course, at the moment, it's hard because I didn't know um, how to diffuse that tension. Like I was trying to diffuse it, but I wasn't sure. But I think also it's important to see how different people have different thinking at during the event, like for us as co-founders and when we are co-creating. This is just a very new thing to co-create in events. Um, yeah, I was just remembering that as you were sharing, because I was like, oh, let's be here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's different like states within an event for me that need to function well in order for me not to feel like there isn't that a bit of control there. And a big part of that is like events, like the timing is like an events as if an event is, like having that set up and structured, and not to say like I don't value having a grounding moment, but it is like, that structure for me for an event is very important because I've seen what happens when it's not there. And it also, for me, allows me to have flexibility, but as long as it's still fitting within something. Because we did have to, like, it was it was a little bit tough going from that to then we had so I think a lot of people face this when they host events. You have a number of people register, but then a smaller chunk actually show up. We were up against a few things that night, similar events in the same space. And so when we had less people show up too, we did have to, that's where the structure was great that like I knew it in my head, the things that we were going to do. Um, and even though I didn't have the same guides that we were going to have, the same kind of containers that we were going to have to run it, we still knew what we wanted people to get out of it. And so it gives me, when there's structure around, it gives me space to be able to navigate and be intuitive to like what's happening during the event. Um,
I know, and I'm learning that, and that's
yeah.
what I was what I meant. It's like there are different people that have such different styles and mindsets. And for example, what you shared now to me makes sense that for you that it is important, the timing, the structure, that is the main thing.
Yeah.
For me, the main thing is the team. And I'm like, okay, I'm that thing.
Hmm.
And for me, it's like, okay, if the team is the right mindset container, there is stuff is gonna take care of itself. And probably I'm wrong,
Yeah, no,
but
you're
but
not wrong.
but
I
but
actually
I
think
think my
both of
point
us.
is not about what is right or wrong. My
Yeah.
point is about how people like in my mind is like, oh, of course this is the right way of looking at it. But different people have different experiences and different styles. Like for me, based on coaching, group coaching, it's all about coaching mindset. If you are the coaching mindset and container, because it's always free flow. And if the coaching mindset and container and people are not clean enough, things get messy. And if it is clean, that messiness, you can hold the messiness. But my point is how I was um, realizing how, like, as we do these events, we see, oh, this person completely thinks differently about or things that are important for that person. And there is no one right thing. It is understanding that, hey, like this is how I see it. This is this person, how this person is seeing it. Now we need to, as we go on, because that's what makes it amazing, because it has both of those components. As for following it, we can co-create that it has both of those things or communicate it. Like, for example, like next time I know that, okay, for this person, this is really important. If that doesn't happen, the whole thing is,
I
like,
might push back on that a little bit because we already, I think we had already had the communication that this piece of it, that the having this grounding with our team and like having that moment was really important, especially like from your lens. And I was like, I hear you. I hear that this is an important piece of it. Um, this one, this time, it's sort of just like those two things are two things of like these are things that are very important that are happening here and that agreed upon things kind of came up to to a head and it was like,
Mhm.
oh wait, we actually didn't build in enough time for these things to actually both happen. And so that was where the disconnect for this specific thing, but I think the point of that we have to have this space where we can learn about what each of us need and that's all based on like what we like our experience and our and that's what makes these events what they are. It's not because of any like the things that
No, I totally agree with you.
yeah.
I don't think we are disagreeing on that. I think I 100% agree that it was partially, not partially, mostly my responsibility because this was what I wanted to create, to have that container, to not create the time for us
Yeah,
to
and
meet.
that's
But
both of
that,
us.
that,
We could
that
have both done better about like, oh wait, what time is it? Let's because
yeah,
I should have I also I recognize knowing that that's such an important piece of this. I should have also been in my head like, ah, we need the space for this. Let's make sure it happens. And for me, that I like that's on me too, that I was like didn't even think to fit that to make sure intentionally that that happened. So I'm not saying like that. I'm saying that it's so important that we do know like we're learning these things
yeah,
about each other and we are able to intentionally like make sure that they're a part of the work that we're doing. That's like that's what why this is work. That's why this works so well.
yes. How are you feeling right now as you're talking about this? Because I sense a little bit frustration.
I don't know. I don't feel frustrated. I do I think I think I'm still to be honest, it brought me back to that day and that was not that was I was and I'm tr so if you're what you're catching too is probably me in the back of my head trying to be like how much do I share about all the other things that were actually happening during that moment that if
Mhm.
those things weren't happening for me personally too, I don't even think this would have been an issue. And that's why it's like I do think this is so valuable and a lesson that we're going to learn again and again and again. I just don't know if this
Yeah.
specific instance is the best example of that because of this the
Yeah.
like of
Yes,
all
yes.
the other
I just wanted to check with you because
yeah.
and I didn't mean to bring back the tension that of
You
that moment.
yeah.
Yeah, it was just for me. It just came up as a, I look at it as like, oh, this is a good learning thing that we have different styles and we are learning from each other, and it's a growth moment. But I didn't notice that there it might bring more context by sharing that.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard for me to be like that's a growth moment, that exact I do think it is in addition to the moments that all like we're learning this that but for me that wasn't the moment that I learned that. I learned that that's important to you actually in the previous event. And so it wasn't in that moment that I like didn't know that that's of value to you. It was that I was dealing with a lot of things that even I didn't. So just like I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it without being like, here's my life story. But like so I was it was leading up to a migraine for me. And for me, now that I'm starting to understand my migraines, which is a new experience for me. They are like triggers are hormonal. So the day before, it's called like the predrome, not important, but it comes with a lot of like emotional instability and pain and like fatigue. And so I was not in a good emotional state anyway when that happened. And and so I did revert back to I know what needs to happen. That structure for me, I like that's when I needed it in that moment, and that's why that happened there. Otherwise, like I do believe that if I had not been in that state and I didn't know it either is also the thing. I don't I do believe that we had done enough of like understanding each other's styles in like the last event leading into this one that that wasn't the learning moment, at least not for me. It was
Yeah.
before that. I think a learning moment is like I need to be better about communicating to you that something's happening that I don't even if I don't understand it myself, because it is going to impact the work that we're doing together, if it's going to impact the work that we're doing.
Yeah, thanks for sharing it. Yeah, for yeah, and yes, I think for both of us to see what is the best way to communicate at those moments.
Yeah.
But for me, it was a learning moment. I mean, after that, because at that moment, I was, um, yeah, after that, I'm like, oh, if this is like it, um, it doesn't like everyone thinks differently at the same time. You
Yeah.
cannot expect everyone to think it the same way that I think.
Yeah.
And I think it was in a way a learning, of course, after when I reflected on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the other thing that I noticed was that, like, first of all, I think everyone was, despite this, everyone, I mean, it wasn't this, but everyone was leaving smiling and taking away a lot from it, which I genuinely believe, like, people, once they connect, it really, it matters how it is and the container and we do it, but sometimes it's just there's not much need to happen. It's just you need to hold that space for them and they connect and they're like, oh, I feel good. I feel grounded because we crave that connection so much these days.
Mhm.
So that was also again confirming that this is so much needed for people to feel connected and heard by other people and
Yeah.
hearing other people in a setting that has that warm and coziness and love and
Mhm.
that emotions are what bring us to that space.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I can't even I feel like I keep saying this, but also I haven't said it like in this space. But to see, I mean, I think it's so the way that I'm like, how do I explain the feeling that happens and what happens in this space? And the best way for me to describe it is this like difference in when we do one word of like what's an emotion you're feeling right now when you first get there and we share, and then and we do the same thing as we're wrapping up the event. And for both of these, it really goes from like anxiety, frustration, anger, some excitement. Like there's still some contentment, things like that. But it's like a feeling of like, oh, we're distracted. We're here, but we're not here kind of thing. And then you have the moment of people getting to truly connect over like with their feeling. To connect not about all of these things that in our head that are going through our days, and then really just to connect on an emotional level. And then you come away with like the amount of times I've heard people say hope and connection after this, and they don't, it's not in the words so much. They say in the words, but it's literally in the way they're like they're leaning in to listen to each other and the smiles, like you just see it. And like even people are like people don't want to leave. They're just hanging out, to be a part of it longer and to soak it in. I it's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I think we tried it within our team, like some sample version of it, and I I think it did something at that. Like it was once people shared their emotions about all of the role changes and transition with AI, and everyone heard other people's how they feel in a safe space. I feel like it's still I can sense it within that team. We needed that conversation for it to create that flow again, that connection, that momentum. Um, yeah. So I think it is really something special happens when we get together and listen to each other's in a specific way that requires dropping down and being with emotions. That after that, it's just that
Yeah,
connection is so powerful.
it's
There's an energy that it's so tangible.
yeah. And there was something you said about this idea of like, understanding all these like these other people's perspectives, and that's kind of part of it when you're starting to see all of like when you're leading with emotions, that's how we connect and start to understand like this idea of empathy, right? Oh, what? Oh, wait, that's not my experience, but I now deeply understand how like what your feelings are around this, and that makes it way easier for me for us to like talk about it, or for us to work together, or for us to grow and create. And I can see like there's so much value in that. For obviously we like it's not a secret that having empathy is so powerful, but I think but it's not something that is just like, oh, I have empathy. It really is a practice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I can't. First of all, I know how important it is for like in teams, empathy, like especially for managers. That's one of the very important skills that I learned through my trainings. That oh, like it's very important for managers to have empathies as they're leading teams. But um, yeah, like seeing that, I'm talking to a lot of people that are so frustrated at the workplace and none of that exists, and creating that connection and cohesion excites me. I really want to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this idea, um, there is, it's a, this, we learn these soft skills, and it is empathy is like as a leader, empathetic leader. Um, but, but this is like goes further, right? Because we're not just saying be empathetic. We're saying that if you aren't actually able to, like, you can't guess people's emotions. And that's, I think, where people are getting stuck. It's like I have empathy, but I am moving through looking at a lot of things just from my perspective and my perception. And until those emotions are actually surface, which is what we're trying to do, you're not actually able, like you can want to do that, but you're not doing it, essentially. Like you can have intuition. But and then first people have to feel safe to be able to like be open and lead from that place.
Yeah, yeah, so important. So
So yeah, a lot of I think we learned a lot, and these events have really opened up such a good just a good space for us to be able to create from and through and with, like, co-create with the folks that are a part of them. And now we're really looking at, okay, how can we grow, how can we grow our business offerings to really be able to support teams, and like going from these feelings of like disconnect and like ugh, things are changing, and I feel like I'm alone and all of this stuff, and like, oh, as a leader, as a manager, I'm like, I can only do so much to like help move my teams through this, because I'm like, okay, well, here's X, Y, and Z that you can do to get to the next, like, just do this and you're fine. Um, but yeah, this layer here that we're hoping to be able to tackle is like it's overwhelming. I think we both share that this overwhelming, because we are like creating a product around this, that we have to, like all the things that need to go along with it, and we're figuring it out what it is, what we can actually offer to teams, but then like also all the things with like selling it and stuff is it's like it's like to deeply believe in something. Now we have to
Yeah.
actually execute on it, and then that part is like overwhelming, but it's exciting to plan from this place as opposed to like, what should we create? Like,
Yeah, I think it's an experience first, so that's the difficult part to explain. I
mhm,
think the closest word to it is magic. So we create magic for teams to be much more coherent and have so much more teaming, momentum, connection, and creativity. But it is magic. It's not like it's an experience that they need to go through and then
exactly.
help the leaders to really create that and continue communicating through that.
Yeah. So we have a lot of planning to do for that, but that will probably be a topic of conversation as we're navigating that. And working and like doing these calls with our discovery calls, and really, really talking to leaders and founders around what's happening within their companies, and how valuable this is.
Yeah. And when is our next event?
Yeah, we're doing our next Connecting with Emotion event on February 26th, and now, and that one is open to community, remember, anyone, general public, and it's another space we're focusing on a different emotion this month, where we're looking at how we can connect to anger. I think is we asked or we have a WhatsApp community that comes from being a part of these community events, and we asked, and it was on our minds, I think, a bit. There's I think a lot of anger, and it's a bit difficult to hold, and so we're gonna be reflecting on anger on February 26th, and then in March we'll have our next like kind of navigating change and building that emotional clarity, and that's specifically for founders and executives and those folks who are in those roles of like really managing people, and we're going to look at some of the things that we're building, but we're also really going to do the same thing. It's still about really connecting with that emotion through the lens of like all of these things that are happening, these things that are shifting and changing, especially with things like AI. So those things are coming up, and you can find that on our website and our Luma calendar. And then those are going to be every win. Then we have like after that. Actually, this is getting long, but
Yeah, that's enough,
that's
I
enough.
think. Fill the 2 minutes. Or-
Like, wait.
We're gonna have a bunch of podcasts while
True, true.
that.
Okay. Should we do some acknowledgements?
Yes, I can get it started. Okay. I want to acknowledge you for I think I think both your courage and your, I think there is a form of leadership that you do, like all of this is happening and you're holding all of them, and then like today you're always looking at new ways. You're like, oh, I need to take care of myself. You're come up, and today I was, I think, overwhelmed, and we talked, and you were able to calm me down, hold a space for me. So I want to acknowledge you for your um yes, oh, support and kind gentleness that you provided for me when I was like, oh, there's so much happening. I'm overwhelmed.
Thank you. I do feel acknowledged. I I want to acknowledge you. I'm like trying to think of the, it doesn't really matter what word I use, but I think it mostly it's your passion. Um and your passion, resilience, I guess is another word to like go along with this, but it is truly your passion and like your light and what you've like your vision of what of creating this from the beginning. That is what, even though the product shifts and changes, it is that like grounding thing that is why we have people on our team now. It's what draws people to what we're doing so that we can keep doing it. And I do believe that if we didn't have that, if we didn't have your essence and your being, that we wouldn't, that I don't know, maybe it would just be one or two of us still trying to crank away at something. But you really do you have this unique ability, and maybe I'm just adding another thing here, but you have this unique ability to really draw people in and bring them together. It's interesting because it's like it's a vision. You're a visionary. I'll say that.
You, thank you. That's very kind. I do feel acknowledged. I do feel acknowledged, and that feels good. Thanks. Thanks for seeing.
Okay,
All right.
we'll
Have a
do
great
this.
week.
We'll be back.
Yes.
Bye.